I had the pleasure yesterday evening of seeing you,
Me?
perform on stage in a local theater production of The Odd Couple.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed it very much.
Oh,
First
thank
off,
you.
your performance was very good, and I would say probably one of the better out of the rest. And I'm not trying to like downplay anything.
Of course not.
This is community theater. We're not expecting Tony Award winning performances. You know, this
Exactly.
is community theater. This is a volunteer kind of thing.
Mhm.
But I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, I had never seen The Odd Couple, like the original movie or the stage play.
Mhm.
My experience with The Odd Couple came from the original television series.
And Tony Randall, Jack
Tony
Klugman.
Randall and Jack Klugman, and I used to watch it on Nick at Night.
Mhm.
So that's kind of all I knew. And I knew who Felix was, I knew who Oscar was, so I understood the dynamic between the two. And it was kind of surprising to me that you got cast as Felix.
Yeah.
Whereas I think you're a little bit more of an Oscar.
Oh,
in
I
real
am
life.
completely Oscar in real life. Which, the funniest thing, though, is my co-star, who was playing Oscar, very much a Felix.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That is interesting. But so what I decided to do after I saw your performance of it is I watched the movie with Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, and then I watched a couple of episodes. There's a new Odd Couple on television
With
right now.
Matthew Perry and Tom Lennon.
Lennon.
Are they still making
Yes,
that? I thought it was canceled after the second season.
I looked it up and it got renewed for a third season.
Wow.
So it's already about to start its third season. It's a sitcom, you know, the 22-minute sitcom.
And I do love Tom Lennon's version of Felix.
Right.
And Matthew Perry does a great job with Oscar, too. I just couldn't really get into it because I only watched like the first episode or two.
Right, I watched the first two episodes back to back, and it was interesting to see some of the lines and premises from the original portrayed in that modern setting.
Mm-hmm.
And here's one thing I noticed was in the play, he talks about the notes, you know.
Yeah.
We're out of cornflakes, F you. And he's like, it took me a while to realize F you stood for Felix Unger. Which that line really surprised me, that line would have been wrote in the 60s and performed. I don't recall that in the Walter Matthau movie. I don't recall that line in it. And I noticed there were a few, scenes that take place in different places. Of course, you're not going to have the whole movie set in Oscar's apartment.
Right.
But and of course, you're going to add and expand a little bit. But it was very faithful. But I did notice a few lines here and there were either changed or different. Now, I don't know if you guys changed it or what. Like, instead of asking for a 7-Up, he asked him if he wanted a root beer or something like that. So anyway, The Odd Couple movie came out in the late 60s, all right, and has managed to have a lot of staying power. Here it is, 2016, and we're talking about it right now. I just saw it live last night. There's a new series now. Apparently there was a series that came out in the 80s called The Odd Couple, or like The New Odd Couple, and it starred two black gentlemen playing Felix and Oscar. Never saw it. Couldn't really find a lot of information on it, even though I didn't really look that hard either. There was also a show called The Oddball Couple in the 80s, which was animated with a dog and a cat. There was a stage production called like The Female Odd Couple, where it was basically the roles of Oscar and Felix as
that's
women.
the thing. Neil Simon actually wrote that.
Right.
He wrote
and
the
apparently,
gender swap version.
And then there was another stage production in the 90s where it was more of like an updated, more modern Odd Couple written by Neil Simon as well.
I've never read that one.
Right. So, and there was also a TV movie that came out with Jack Klugman and Tony Randall. And I totally forgot that this happened, but there was an Odd Couple too that came out in the 90s. And once I saw the picture of the movie poster, I was like, I remember when that came out. Of course, I never saw it.
Yeah.
Apparently, it got very bad reviews and did not do very well. But what makes it... why do you think that The Odd Couple has so much staying power, that story?
I mean, it's very relatable. I am divorced. You are divorced.
Yes,
we are both divorced.
Divorced men.
Yeah. And of course, that's kind of the crux of that story. It's the only reason those two move in together in the first place. They both are divorced. Right. Oscar gets divorced about 3 months before the play starts. And on the night of the first poker game at the beginning of the show, Felix has been kicked out of his house by his wife, and he is getting divorced.
And about to kill himself.
He does not react well to bad news.
He doesn't. I think that, and I looked this up because I saw the parallel there, but I think the No Fault Divorce Act or basically it was the amendment to some divorce law that would basically allow you to get a divorce without showing proof of wrongdoing in the relationship. Whereas before, it was a lot harder to get divorced. And I think that's one of those things that so many people can relate to, because what is it, like 1 in 3 marriages end in divorce? Maybe even
I was
1
about
in
to say,
2.
I thought it was almost 50%.
Almost. And so that's definitely something a lot of people can relate to, because when you really look at the play and the movie, it's really about 2 guys coming to terms with being divorced. And of course you have the dichotomy of the slovenly
versus the fastidious.
Right. And so that's laughable. And you see pieces of yourself in Felix and in both Oscar.
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
I mean, hey, I like to kick back and have a good time, and I'm not the cleanest person in the world, but also I like to cook. I know what a ladle is. You know? So,
you know where your kitchen is.
Yes, I am very aware of where my kitchen is, and I spend a lot of time in it. So I think just the way that you can easily relate to those characters, and the fact that it kind of deals with that kind of modern subject, which back in the day, back when
in 1962,
there was a line in the play or in the movies like, oh, there's 100,000 people get divorced every year, and I was like, or maybe the 100,000 people are divorced, but I was like, it's way more than that now.
Yeah.
And without going down and looking up the divorce statistics, you'd have to know, though, that it's very prevalent, and probably for good reason. Maybe people get married a little bit too quickly. I know I sure as hell did.
Likewise.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things, and I don't know, we could get off into a tangent about marriage, and I'd rather not. But let's keep it on The Odd Couple. So the movie was one of your favorites. You used to do, I guess, for drama class or something, excerpts from The Odd Couple. Now, did you do Felix, or did you do
I did
Oscar?
Felix in the humorous duets that I did in high school.
Yeah. What's some of your favorite lines from the show? or parts of the show?
Okay, so Act 2, Scene 2, when the girls come for the date, and I am just sitting and
being all awkward.
Yeah,
trying to make conversation with them.
Yep. That without question, my favorite scene in the entire show.
Really?
I have so much fun doing that.
I think my favorite part from last night's performance was you guys are getting in your big fight where he's about to kick you out. And you're like, let me tell you something. And then you say all these
nice things
to him, but in this tone that's very combative and aggressive. And he's like, I'm not even sure you're even insulted. It's like, are you insulting me? What was his line? Or I'm not sure you even know how to fight. That was from the movie.
Yeah.
Was not sure you know how to fight, but I think it was different in the play.
Yeah, in the play, I think he says, if I was just insulted or attacked, I think I might have missed it.
Yeah. So it's just those kind of things that are great. Now, I would love to see that play performed with an updated, more modern spin on it.
I could see that.
It's not 30 cents for a pack of cigarettes.
38 cents for a pack of cigarettes. I would have so many cigarettes.
I would have all the cigarettes in the world. $120 was his half of the rent on an 8-bedroom apartment in New York City.
In New York City. Good Lord. 1962 must have just been like...
Yeah, but how much money did they make back then? What was the minimum wage? Was there a minimum wage?
Well, okay, so Oscar has a line where he's talking about being 3 weeks behind on his alimony payments. Right. And he says, I'm $800 behind in alimony.
Okay.
So 3 weeks at $800, I mean, that's, what, 230 some?
I can't do math.
I can't do math
crazy?
either. Whatever. But, I mean, he must make a shit ton of money then. I mean, he even has his line where he says, I'm one of the highest paid sports writers on the East Coast.
Right.
And I've saved $8.50 in pennies.
Yeah. So,
but if his alimony check is $250 every week, he must be making a shit ton of money.
Yeah. And and so should Felix, right?
Yeah, because he writes the news for CBS.
But their whole thing is about saving money.
Yeah.
You know, I've managed to save money because we haven't been eating out all the time. And a dinner for 4, cooking it at home would have saved them $30 to $40.
$30 to $40, which, I mean, like, that's... depending on what kind of a restaurant you go,
taking them to like a 5-star restaurant or something back in the day might be $40 for 4 people. Who knows?
Maybe
it's $5 in the movie. It shows him checking into the hotel. It was $5 a night.
What?
Yeah, it was like $5. And then they're like, "Do you have anything higher than the 3rd floor?" And he gives him a key to the 9th floor bedroom, and it, playing on the narrative that he's going to kill himself.
Right.
So it's funny. Now in the new series, Thomas Lennon's Felix didn't really seem suicidal in that first episode, so I guess they kind of toned that down a little bit, and they do mention suicide quite a bit in the play and the movie. So I'm kind of wondering why they decided to go with that.
Yeah, there is a lot that during the production of this play that I noticed about the script itself.
Right,
I mean,
very adult.
It's very, I mean...
For that time?
Yeah, very adult while still
trying to
maintain...
And those British sisters are whores.
Yeah, they are.
They are sluts. Dirty sluts. The Pigeon
like,
sisters.
there's a
I'm
lot
not
of...
slut-shaming. I love
No,
sluts.
of course not, yeah. But, like, there's a lot of misogyny.
Right.
There's a lot of shit-talking on people who commit suicide.
Right.
Like... I mean, it's very not PC.
And in the movie, okay, so speaking of grab her by the pussy, the Trump whole thing, in the movie, Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon they go to a diner, and they do one of those scenes in the diner, and he's hitting on the waitress who is married, and he kind of grabs her ass as she's walking by, and he's like, "Hey, you never know unless you try," and it was like, so we're definitely in a very different time. A very different time. Because I was like, that was a sexual assault joke. And it's weird now that I'm even like aware of that kind of stuff by the whole, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a good outcome of the SJW movement and of the feminism and stuff like, Trump's lewd comments in the news. Because back then, he probably would have gotten away with it a lot more if he had said something like that.
I mean, that was probably his entire youth, was doing just shitty shit
he is
like
old
that.
as fuck. I mean,
71,
of course,
I think.
We don't want to be making excuses for him.
No, of course not.
And that's one of my
reprehensible human being.
And I hate hearing that kind of stuff about, that's just, they're old fashioned. That's just what they believe. That's a horrible argument.
Yeah, it is.
So I guess this is the natural progression of the show, because we're gonna have to get into it now.
Yeah.